Hey, how's it going, everyone? So, as of Tuesday around 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Analog's highly limited prototype colorways are actually still in stock. Who would have thought? And yeah, it wouldn't have been a shock if it was another company, but with Analog, as you probably know, their limited colorways usually sell out within anywhere from minutes to less than an hour. It's usually a really stressful process to purchase and get out. And usually they get bought up by, scalpers who sell them on the second-hand market. And yeah, I've just kind of been wondering, has their appeal to consumers been, I guess, diminishing? Have they exhausted the market, or is something else happening here? So in this video, I wanted to talk a bit about what might be going on with Analog, and then also pose the question, um, who is ModRetro going to sell the M64 to exactly, if this market is somewhat, exhausted. And yeah, if you like the type of content, please consider subscribing. And if you end up liking this video, please give it a like. It's much appreciated. And with that said, let's get into it. Okay, so let's actually just look at um, their store page. So yeah, as you can see, they're all still in stock. I was almost certain that this green one would be sold out within minutes, and maybe also this blue one. But no, everything is still in stock, and I believe their controllers are also still in stock. Yeah, everything is, you can buy basically anything that's still on their page, which is, yeah, pretty shocking to see from Analog anyway. But yeah, just wanted to get into some of the possibilities of why this is happening and share my thoughts about that. But since Analog is, obviously a very coy company, it's not clear exactly what's going on, but I believe that there's probably four main reasons why all the prototype colorways are still in stock. And the first reason that I think, or one of the options, I guess, one of the possibilities that it hasn't sold out yet may just be because they've exhausted the market that knows about this product and is also willing to purchase, at this price point. Um, there may just not be any other retro enthusiasts who are willing to buy, this product, who know about it. And let's not forget that this is a expensive product now. It was 250, which is kind of at the border of, it's just below being, I guess, like expensive. 250 is not shabby at all, but it's not like when you start getting into 300, that's when really even, gaming enthusiasts will kind of like take a good look at that. And yeah, that could be the reason they might have just exhausted the people who are, yeah, willing to pay that price and are also really into the Nintendo 64. And so I guess in this situation, they might just need to increase their marketing efforts and just see if they can squeeze, a little bit more out of the market. People who are willing to pay $300 plus for a analog 3D. And it's not even like $300, like it's $270. And I think at minimum, you're going to be paying $320 because I paid 50 bucks more, about 50 bucks more for the $250 3D that I bought. And yeah, that $320, that's, that is a, that's something that people are going to take a long, hard look at. And the second reason that it may not have sold out is that consumers might just be getting a bit tired of analog. And there's no doubt that, analog really rubs many people the wrong way with how they release consoles, they manufacture FOMO. They also keep everything really tight to the chest, and that kind of leads the consumer to, you know, impute is what they how they perceive them to be, which is a bit smug. I can tell you from my personal experience when I've reached out to their customer. service or support. I don't know. They were fine, like they answered the questions and that kind of thing, but there was no like customer service. There was no like warmth to it. It was just very, very um, not human to human, shall I say. And yeah, so it's possible that there's a contingent of consumers who've decided they're just not going to put up with the high price, the expensive shipping, the international fee, and all that. Um, and they're just, tired of having to pay very exorbitant prices, very premium prices. That's not to like take away from the quality of the product. It is a high quality product, but again, as I just outlined, like just for the base black and white, you're going to be paying at least $320. And for this prototype, you are going to be paying, you know, at least 350 bucks. And there's going to be a lot of places where it's going to bump you up to about, 400 bucks. And then don't forget, you might not have a controller, and then you buy the controller as well. That's going to get you north of 400 bucks. I mean, it's just really expensive. And um, yeah, people just might be tired of paying this, even if they can afford it. Um, but also on this point of them being tired of analog, there's also the M64 on the horizon. So they, sometimes you have no choice. You might not like a product, but if that's the only one on the market, you don't really have options. But now with the M64 on the horizon, they may just be, they have the ability to just be patient a little bit longer and um, get that when that comes out and sort of, I guess, not be a analog fan anymore. So yeah, that was I guess, my second um, thought of what might be going on. And then another another thing that might be actually taking place here is Analog may have been misleading about how limited the prototype colors are, just to, artificially manufacture a, scarcity effect and get everyone to panic buy. There are companies that do this. I don't think that that's taking place here. And the reason I don't think that that's taking place here is because I believe with all of their other limited edition devices and consoles, they've sold out very quickly. So why with this edition would they lie to us? Like they say it's highly limited, but really there's like, 10,000 of each color. I don't think that that's taking place here. I think that they are indeed limited and they just haven't sold them, for some of these reasons that I'm outlining. Um, yeah, but it is a possibility that they were just misleading about how limited they are. But this fourth potential possibility, I think, could be a big factor in this. And it may be that scalpers are just not finding the limited edition consoles valuable enough to scoop up and resell on the secondhand market on eBay. And from what I've heard is that with the Fantastic colors, they were not really upselling much higher than what the purchase price is. And again, like that when you purchase analog products, you got to pay that shipping, the tax, the tax is pretty high. And then also maybe international fees, like if your payment method doesn't really um, for whatever reason, might get an international fee because their bank is in Hong Kong. And then you have to resell that on a pretty decent margin to, actually make it worth your time and effort. And yeah, so if you get like this new prototype colorway and it's almost 400 bucks, is anyone going to buy it for like 450, 500? I mean, there's no way that I would. And I just don't think a lot of people, I think people are just kind of getting done with it. So yeah, these are basically four possibilities that I think why the prototype colorways haven't um, been selling out. So again, it's just potentially that they've exhausted a lot of the market. Who knows about this product? Um, Two, the consumers are just getting tired of them, and they have a way out with the M64. They have options now. Analog, and then three, analog may be misleading about how limited they are, which I don't think is really taking place here, just given their history. And then four, which I think is definitely possible, is that scalpers just are not finding the limited edition consoles valuable enough to scoop up, and it might be possible that they actually make up a big portion of their sales. So yeah, next I want to talk a little bit about who ModRetro is going to sell the M64 to. So let's dive into that next. So yeah, the fact that the analog 3D prototype colorways haven't sold out, it might raise a question, which is there still a sizable market for the M64 to sell to? And will the M64 need a clear value proposition over the analog 3D? And if so, like, what are those? So I wanted to outline a few ways that I think the M64 can provide value and actually scoop up some of the market that analog hasn't been able to tap into. So the first one is the fact that it's going to be an open source platform. The Analog 3D right now is very closed. It's possible that it's going to get jailbroken. And usually that jailbreak, like in the past with the Super NT and Mega SG, it was just to be able to play off of an SD card, but not to actually change the core. So I don't think the Analog 3D is going to be jailbroken to put new cores, but it might be jailbroken to be able to just play off of a SD card. But yeah, it's still a big question mark. So with the open source nature of the ModRetro M64, and there is obviously the possibility that third-party developers will want to tinker with it and both, port Mr. cores over as well as develop new ones. And this is going to be, I think, if they actually adopt it, and there's a lot of people who've purchased the M64, this is going to be a really big factor, or I guess benefit or reason to buy the M64 over the analog 3D. And yeah, because it's more powerful than the Mister, there could be, these new cores that come up, and just a whole host of possibilities on that front. And then along with that, there could be developers who make really amazing shaders and filters that we can choose from, not just, a select few that Analog has made, but just a whole, host of different shaders. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's absolutely essential when I'm playing retro games to have those sorts of filters that give you the feeling of playing it on an old monitor. And yeah, that's a huge thing for me. And then also, it might just be that it's easier to, load games via an SD card and just be able to play it that way. Right away, it might just be like a matter of like a few days or weeks where developers can get that going. And then that's another huge benefit where, because, instead of having to potentially get a multi cart where you're not 100% sure if it's going to work with the product, you can just use the SD card, and SD cards are just a little bit easier to work with. And yeah, so that's going to be a huge thing. And then also, um, just the fact that it's going to be open source, it might lead to a community of sorts, like like a FPGA community where, there's a lot of people creating, custom creating new cores, porting cores over, creating custom, shaders, and then also maybe like customizing, I don't know, maybe the UI or things like that. And then people get really inspired by that, and then they can really make this console their own. And then in that sense, you kind of have a community of people who've, it's like cars, like where people modify their cars and they all meet up in like these specific places and they just, chat about what they've done to their car and then whatnot. Maybe something like that can take place online with the M64 where people show off like their setup and maybe their front end, that sort of thing. Again, I don't know how deep it's going to go, but um, yeah, I think there's a lot of possibility with just the open source nature of ModRetro And that's just part of their ethos. That's why it's called ModRetro. They actually encourage people to tinker with their products and customize them and really make it their own, which I think is really cool. So the next way that I think that the M64 can differentiate itself and provide value, and I think this is the biggest factor, which is going to be the price. So you have to remember that not everyone is making bank and can just afford to throw 300 plus dollars on an N64 clone, and then also kind of get screwed a little bit with the shipping price. It just That's kind of a select few people, and if the M64 can stay below $250, I think it's going to be very attractive, and especially to a younger audience. The gaming audience is not as young as people think, and especially with these, more high-end, expensive hardware, like the people who grew up with the N64, you know, uh, they're established people now. They're 30 plus years old, and they have more disposable income. But it would be nice if they could tap into that younger market and get them excited about the games as well. So yeah, I think that the price is going to be huge, but I don't think it's going to be like $200 like it was when people signed up. I think it's probably going to be like somewhere between 230 and 250, probably closer to 250 if I'm being honest, just with all of you know, the world economy and everything. So yeah, that's that. And then the next thing that I think will differentiate it is that ModRetro will sell adapters to connect with different monitors. So I know that this is a small contingent of people who actually have CRTs, but they are also very passionate about CRTs. And yeah, CRTs are absolutely beautiful. It's, there's a lot of shaders and filters that are out there, but I still think that the CRTs are just if you actually like look with a camera, there's like actually an Instagram page that I follow, and every day he posts really nice photos of CRTs versus like shaders or just, regular, no filter applied retro games, and it's just incredible the difference. So yeah, that contingent is small but strong, and I think that's going to be a differentiating factor to provide value. Hmm. And then last, excuse me, there is the Mod Retro M64 games. So although they will likely be compatible with original hardware and then also maybe even the Analog 3D, I think the fact that they're going to be publishing new and also old N64 games will really get the community excited about N64 again, and just see like what kind of new games developers can create, or what old games are going to republish that maybe are rare and expensive, but then they republish them and you can get them new again. I think it's going to be really exciting to a lot of people. And although like it might be playable on the Analog 3D, I think it's just going to squeeze out a little bit more sales, just because it's going to get people to, associate mod retro with being more pro-consumer and then just more fun. Yeah, and I was wondering, like, if you were in mod retro's position, would you actually block the, sorry, would you block the Analog 3D from being able to read M64 cartridges, if that were even possible? Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny, but let me know in the comments if you would if you would actually do that. I wouldn't, but it's just an interesting thought. So yeah, I think these three factors are enough to squeeze more sales out of the retro market and make the whole M64 project worth it for Mod Retro. But yeah, they just have to keep the price, I think, below $250, because I think there's just fewer and fewer people willing to pay um, that sort of like uber premium price for an FPGA console. But yeah, let me know what you think about that. So yeah, those are my thoughts about why the analog 3D prototype colorways may not have sold out yet, and also how the M64 can carve out its own niche. But let me know if you think I've missed anything and also what you think the M64's path is to success. And I'd be interested to know. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like and also consider subscribing. I think my next video is going to be about the Nintendo 3DS because I know that's really skyrocketed in price, and I actually have a my original one, which has been really well kept, and I just want to talk about whether it's worth it to buy with this current market conditions. And yeah, anyways, thanks so much, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.